Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Report. It is Wednesday, November the 22nd. I hope everyone's having a fine Wednesday afternoon. We have an absolutely massive 14-game slate on our hands this evening, so I'm not going to waste any time. Please smash that like button for me. Let's see how many we can get up to on this busy slate. I'm honestly not a huge fan of these busy slates, mostly because of the job that I have to do. It's like by this point of the day, my brain's basically mush trying to put together all the injury news and lineups for 18 different teams or for 24 different teams, excuse me, and all the goalie is just by this point of the day, it's a lot. And here we are. We got the charts. We're ready to rock. Yeah, what did we say? 14 games. We got 28 teams on the slate. Let's get through the goalies first. We've got Elvis Merzlikins starting for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Peter Mrazek goes for the Chicago Blackhawks. Sergei Bobrovsky starts for the Florida Panthers. We're projecting to see Linus Ullmark. He did not start their most recent game, so we'd expect them to go back to him as long as he's 100%. No Bruins goaltender had started in back-to-back games prior to the other night when Jeremy Swayman started for the second consecutive game. So I would imagine it's Ullmark, especially since Swayman lost that start. But if he's not 100%, don't be surprised to come back with Swayman. We could get word here around 5 o'clock. And now that I'm live, we got our guy Beebs looking on after things there. So he'll let us know if anything comes across there. If not, you'll find out in warm-ups at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Darcy Kemper starts for the Washington Capitals. Likely going to see Devin Levi for the Buffalo Sabres. Jonas Johansson continues to get the nod for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They announced today that they expect that Andrei Vasilevsky will be back sometime in the next during their upcoming road trip. So Vasilevsky's return certainly on the horizon. Connor Hellebuyck likely to get the start for the Winnipeg Jets. Tristan Jarry starts for the Pittsburgh Penguins up against Jonathan Quick for the New York Rangers. Likely going to see Antti Raanta for the Hurricanes versus Stuart Skinner for the Oilers. Alex Lyon gets a second consecutive start for the Detroit Red Wings. Really good for the Panthers last year. He's looked pretty solid in limited action with the Red Wings so far this year. Unclear who we see for the New Jersey Devils at this point in time. Could get an announcement again around 5 o'clock now that the teams are arriving to the rink. 7:30, you've got Ilya Sorokin starting for the Islanders up against Carter Hart for the Philadelphia Flyers. Likely going to see UC Saros and Jacob Markstrom going head-to-head as Nashville hosts the Flames. You got Karel Vejmelka for the Arizona Coyotes up against Jordan Binnington for the St. Louis Blues. Trying to mute my phone here. You've got Dallas and the Golden Knights. Should be a great game there. Jake Oettinger confirmed to get the start for the Stars. Should see Logan Thompson for the Kings as their goaltending rotation has been pretty strict so far this season. Anaheim Ducks will roll again with John Gibson, who's been absolutely lights out so far this season. What do we got here? 227 goals against average, 926 save percentage. Sam Montembeault goes for the Montreal Canadiens. Pretty sure the Canadiens just spin a wheel with their three goalies' names on it. And then whoever that wheel lands on, that's who they start. And then we've got Alexander Georgiev likely to start for the Avalanche. I'm most certainly going to see Thatcher Demko for the Canucks. Joey Daccord goes for the Seattle Kraken with Philip Grubauer out, and Kaapo Kähkönen gets the start for the San Jose Sharks in the final game of the evening. So we've got 14 games, as I said, and we've got some really good matchups, right? Colorado, Vancouver, going to be a great hockey game. Dallas, Vegas, going to be a great hockey game. Nashville, Calgary should be good. I even like Philadelphia and the Islanders, Red Wings, New Jersey, Edmonton, Carolina, Pittsburgh, New York, Tampa, Winnipeg. I mean, there's some really Florida, Buffalo. There are some absolute burners on this slate. So we're going to get into it. There's a lot to cover here. We're not going to go as in-depth on every single game just because it's very difficult to do that with 14 games and get you guys out of here at a reasonable time. So we'll probably gloss over things a little bit more than normal, but here we go. Let's jump right into it. We got the Blue Jackets in the Chicago Blackhawks in the first game. The Blue Jackets surprisingly grayed out with the number one 5v5 advantage on the slate just because of how bad the Blackhawks have been 5v5 defensively. The Blue Jackets have also been pretty brutal defensively this season, so it remains to be seen if the Blackhawks are good enough to take advantage of how bad the Blue Jackets have been. But I do think that this game's got a little bit of intrigue for me. I don't think that either side is going to be very high owned, and I think that opens up opportunities for this game. So you take a look at the matchups here, pretty good matchups on both sides. So basically trying to find the line with the best numbers. Right now for the Blue Jackets, that's this Adam Fantilli line. You'd expect that Fantilli, Voronkov, and Patrick Laine. Laine's probably going to have some fire tonight. He was scratched in their most recent game. He was pissed off. He's coming back. So this Fantilli line's been generating a lot. Fantilli's shot volume's really taken off. I think that this line's got a little bit of fire tonight. I do like Columbus too a little bit. They grade out. They grade out. Not that terrifically, but overall 14,200. I do think that Columbus 2 isn't a terrible option. Hopefully Laine comes out pissed off, but right now stacking the Blue Jackets certainly hasn't been something that's been super fun. I always think that the Blue Jackets are going to, nobody's going to enjoy targeting them. So they're going to be low owned. I think that they're kind of interesting tonight in this matchup against the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, as I said, been really bad defensively, not very good offensively. If you're targeting the Blackhawks, you're basically only looking at this top line. Taylor Hall is going to be out tonight. So, they're kind of like middle six, isn't that talented. So pretty much only looking at the Connor Bedard line. Don't think that they're going to carry too much ownership tonight either. 14,600 to full stack them. Lucas Reichel, super talented, 3,100. Kurashev's been playing pretty well as of late as well, 4,300 for him. So I like Columbus 2 and Chicago 1 a little bit in this game. Nothing crazy. I'm not going to be super overweight on either, but if you're building 20 lineups, I think they're fine. Top power play unit, Line A is expected to be back on the top power play unit, but unclear exactly how this is all going to shake out. They didn't really run power plays, so not 100% sure on the Blue Jackets power plays. A little bit more confident in the projections here for the Blackhawks power play. You've got Reichel, you've got Bedard, and you got Kurashev all on the top power play unit together. In terms of the 5v5 or the power play advantage in that game, really nothing to write home about. The Blue Jackets, for all of their struggles, have been pretty good defensively, also been pretty good at staying out of the box. So I lean more towards the Blue Jackets than I do the Blackhawks tonight, but I do think that both lines coming in around 2-3% owned, not terrible. Second game, we've got the Panthers and we've got the Bruins. Both teams very, very good defensively, so it's kind of a tough game to get excited about. The Bruins have one of the worst 5v5 advantages on the slate. That's just how good the Panthers have been at 5v5 defensively this year, number 1 in the league. So not really a whole lot of intrigue in this game. The Panthers have, been really good defensively, but haven't been, I guess, necessarily great. Getting great goaltending. Bob's been fine. But yeah, I don't really love this game. If you take a look at the matchups, it's much worse for the Bruins side of things than it is for the Panthers side of things. We talked about it last episode that the Bruins just aren't that great defensively. Specifically, this top 6 isn't that great. So the matchups are pretty good for Florida 1 and Florida 2. So we'll kind of see what goes on there. Don't know what's happening to. Are we still live? My everything just shut off. The lights, the screen. Okay, I think we're still live. Here we go. Yeah, so Florida 2 still grades out exceptionally well. Florida 1's pretty good as well. The Florida 1 is going to go head-to-head with the Zaka, Marchand, and Pasternak line. So, I don't love that. That line hasn't been that outstanding, but I think that they're going to be kind of just have their hands full more than anything, trying to slow them down, where you've got Florida 2 going head-to-head with this Charlie Coyle line. The Coyle line's been one of the worst defensively on the slate, 97th. So the number 1 best offensive line, almost exclusively going head-to-head with the 97th ranked defensive line. I really like Florida 2 tonight. I know we kind of talk about them a ton every episode, and they haven't really been popping this year. They were fine the other night, which was great. The problem is that they changed their lines right before. So unless you were privy to that information in warmups, you probably didn't make the necessary pivots. But always going to be in on Florida 2. Is Florida going to be super low owned on the slate? I wouldn't say super low owned, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're like 5% Florida 2. That is. So yeah, they grade out as the best line to target overall. They're 19,000 to full stack. Very, very affordable, all things considered. For Haggy, way too cheap at 6,100. Bennett starting to get his legs under him at 752. Even Kachuk at 77 is too cheap. So really like Florida 2 in this matchup. A lot less interest in the Bruins side of things. In terms of the power play, not a whole lot on either side. Both teams pretty good on the kills. So Florida 2 at 5v5 looks great. And that's pretty much it for this game. Washington and Buffalo, both teams really bad offensively and really bad defensively. Both teams pretty good on the kill. So overall, not a whole lot here. I basically never target the Capitals because they just don't do anything at 5v5. On the power play tonight, they're 21st. So really not a lot of interest in the Capitals. The matchups aren't great. The top line has the top line 5% is low, Brock. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They are going to be low. I just don't think they're going to be 2%. But yeah, I think 5% is probably pretty reasonable. I don't think anybody's going to be crazy chalky on this slate. So I think it's going to be pretty spread out across the board. There's just a lot of good spots. So, or just a lot of good games. So yeah, I think that, 5% Florida 2 around there is probably pretty reasonable. So yeah, matchup wise, looks like one of the lower event games of the night. Washington 1 does have that line back together that we like, which is Strome, Ovechkin, and Wilson. The problem is their matchup isn't very good. They're going to see a lot of the Sabres fourth line tonight. The Sabres fourth line is actually really good defensively, 18th best. So don't really love the Capitals. Don't usually target them anyway. And tonight, without a good power play matchup, without a good 5v5 matchup, really not all that interested. The top two lines for the Sabres actually do have quite good matchups. The top line, specifically 95.5 in the matchup score is outstanding. So I do have some interest in Buffalo 1, which is Tuch, Skinner, and Cousins, just three really talented players. All correlate on the top power play unit as well. So I like that. Wait, is Cousins on the second unit? Sorry, Cousins on the second unit, but Tuch and Skinner on the top unit. So, yeah, Buffalo 1's a little bit intriguing to me. Again, another line that I don't think is going to see much ownership whatsoever. So they're kind of in an interesting spot. I think Buffalo 2 is fine as well. The matchup isn't quite as good. They're going to see a little bit more of Washington 3, which isn't terrible. But Buffalo 2 grades out really well. Benson, 2,900, Middlestad 38, and then Peterka 44. Peterka is probably one of my favorite one-off plays in the entire slate, 4,400. As you saw here, he's on the top power play unit now that Tage Thompson's out doing extremely well. And this line looks like one of the best value options on the slate. They grade out 11th, by far and away the best line, kind of like under $13,000. New York 2 grades out pretty well as well. But yeah, Buffalo 2 looks pretty interesting. Like I said, there's not a whole lot to write home about on the power play tonight. They're 28th on the power play up against the 9th ranked kill. So that's not great. They're going to have to do their damage at 5v5. But if you're looking for a cheap, like $11,000 line, I think Buffalo 2 is fine. Specifically, Peterka would be somebody like I want to try to cap my lineups off. If I'm looking for a one-off cheap forward, Peterka is the guy that I'm really looking forward to rostering this evening. Next game, you've got the Lightning and you've got the Jets. Pretty interesting game. The Lightning having a bit of difficulty keeping the puck out of their net. Jonas Johansson has been kind of just old Jonas Johansson so far. And yeah, I like the both teams really in this game. The Jets look pretty good. Their offense at 5v5 has been solid, 17th, going up against the 28th ranked 5v5 defense. That sets up well for them. Problem is their power play has been pretty brutal. And then the opposite is true. The Jets are really good 5v5 defensively, but the Lightning outstanding on the power play up against the Jets penalty kill that's struggling. So the Lightning power play looks like something that's worth targeting tonight. So does the Jets at 5v5. You take a look at the 5v5 matchups, nothing really crazy jumping off the page. So I think maybe Winnipeg 3 kind of in play. We talked about them a lot. Their numbers are still really good. Nothing crazy. I like targeting the Jets a little bit more on smaller slates because I do think that they're getting a little bit fortunate. Their 5v5 numbers haven't been super strong. So probably a game that I'm going to pass on for the most part. Just, I think that there's something there with Winnipeg. Like the overall matchups don't scream very good production, but like obviously the 28th ranked defense as a whole in the season, the Lightning don't look that outstanding. So I think there's something there. I just don't know really who to target from the Jets. You look at the matchups, they're not great. Maybe Winnipeg 3 if you're looking for a value option. I still like Winnipeg 2. They've been on a heater. I don't know how sustainable it is because the numbers are brutal. But Perfetti up to 4,500, probably getting a little too expensive. Ehlers at 5K. They're okay. I'm not in love with it. I think there's better spots on the slate. We talked about the Lightning power play. I think it's in a really good spot tonight. So probably won't try to full power play stack. I do still think that the top line's in an okay spot. The matchup isn't great at all, but they're still the 6th best offensive line of the slate. They've still been playing extremely well. They grade out 4th best overall. The issues are 21,700. To me, there are better options at a lower price tag. So I probably won't be super, high on Tampa 1 tonight, but I think given the charts, teams are off on forwards tab on DK spreadsheet. Really? That's interesting. Yeah, David Pastrnak, Colorado 4. Yeah, sweet. All right, I will definitely fix that after the show because, yeah, that's an absolute mess. But, yeah, let's keep going here. Tampa 1. Yeah, like I said, not super high on them, but I think they're in a good spot just given how bad the penalty kill has been for the Jets. And then you've got, obviously you've got Kucherov, you've got Point on that top power play. If you want to mix in Stamkos and Paul, that second line's been okay. The matchup is pretty brutal though, and their 5-5 numbers don't really hold as much weight as Tampa Bay won. Next game, we've got the Rangers and we've got the Penguins. With Jonathan Quick starting, I do like the Penguins tonight. The problem for the Penguins is they're super banged up all of a sudden. Brian Rust is not going to play tonight. Rickard Rakell is not going to play tonight. Overall, this year, they've been the number one 5v5 team offensively. The Rangers have been really good on the kill, at 5v5 defense. But obviously with, Jonathan Quick in his start, you got to bump the Penguins up a little bit. That being said, Quick's been unbelievable. I believe he currently leads the NHL in goals against average right now. So, yeah, not like somebody that I'm, hyper targeting like I had been in the past, but this is the projected Penguins lines. I'm not 100% concrete on these. Hinostroza did skate with Gensel and Crosby in practice yesterday. Also saw some power play time on the second unit, I believe. So yeah, this is kind of just a loose projection right now, which makes it a little bit hard to talk about them in this game. But Crosby and Gensel have obviously been insanely good this year. The fact that Hinostroza is going to bring that price down, he's obviously going to bring down their talent level as well a little bit. No offense to him, but obviously their offensive production probably not going to be as good without Brian Rust. But 18,300 full stack Pittsburgh won against Jonathan Quick, I think is fine. A little bit less interested in Pittsburgh too. Their matchup is slightly better, but their offensive numbers just don't hold as much water. So we've seen recently Pittsburgh won grade now as like one of the best offensive lines. You take Rust out of the equation, they're about 18th. So not as interested in them as I have been in the past, but I do think that they're in an okay spot here. I don't anticipate that Pittsburgh one is going to carry much ownership at all, which makes them interesting because they obviously have a super high ceiling. Sidney Crosby's playing some of the best hockey of his career, which is really saying something given how unbelievable his career has been. New York 2, still always kind of in consideration. The Penguins haven't been necessarily the best at keeping the puck out of their net this season. Overall, 5v5, they grade out 12th, so they're not terrible. They're not the best. Overall, the 5v5 matchup doesn't grade out very well for the Rangers. They don't do anything very well at 5v5, offensively at least. And then on the power play, 15th. So not really any reason to target the Rangers tonight, but if you are, Rangers 2 looks okay. Carolina and Edmonton, I think, is intriguing. Obviously, the Oilers just still struggling to keep the puck out of their net. And the Hurricanes are super, super good offensively. So they're ninth at 5v5 offense, ninth on power play. Overall, they have the 10th best 5v5 advantage and third best power play advantage. So there is a lot to like, I believe, this evening about this Carolina team. The problem is their offense is pretty concentrated. But if you take a look at the matchups tonight, the Aho line has by far the best matchup, 51.4. They're going to go head-to-head with the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins line. If you didn't see them, these are the new look. Oilers lines, McDavid, Draisaitl, Fogle on the top line. Kane, Nugent-Hopkins, Hyman on the second line. The Kane, Nugent-Hopkins, Hyman line, 75th best defensive numbers so far. So not a great defensive squad going up against a Jarvis. I think it's Jarvis, Teravainen, and an Aho, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to memorize every single line. 24-game slate or 14-game slate's not easy. But yeah, Teravainen, Aho, Jarvis. Really, really like them. 13th best offensively. They're going to be in a pretty good spot tonight, I think. Take a look at the power play. Teravainen, Aho, Jarvis. We also said that they've got one of the best power play advantages on the slate. So really like Carolina 1 tonight. They seem super interesting. The one thing that's worth mentioning is that Tony DeAngelo will be a healthy scratch. So I'm not 100% certain. So Jakob Slavin was on the top power play unit at practice yesterday. Then there were reports that Brent Burns was potentially rotating with him. We're seeing some time on the top power play unit today. So it's like, who's going to actually be there? But then after this gate, they talked about Slavin being the guy on that power play unit. So I think it's going to be Slavin, which makes him obviously a tremendous value option tonight. So I really like Carolina 1 with Slavin tonight. I don't think Carolina is going to see a lot of ownership at all either. So yeah, they are one of the most interesting lines and probably one of my favorites on the entire slate. For the Oilers, obviously it's easy to get super interesting or super excited about McDavid and Leon whenever they're playing together. I think you'd be surprised to see how kind of poor their offensive numbers have been, especially without Hyman or Kane or Nugent-Hopkins also on that line. And then the real issue for them tonight is the fact that the Hurricanes love to hard match that Jordan Staal line. And this Jordan Staal line's numbers are like, they're just insane. The offensive numbers are incredible. 7th best on the slate, which is basically 7th best in the league. Like there's only a handful of teams not playing. And then the number 1 best defensive line. These numbers are ridiculous. 70% expected goals for share, 70% Corsi for share. They've been just super dominant. So I think that they'll probably do a pretty good job of slowing down McDavid and company tonight, which makes me off of the McDavid train this evening. Obviously, the power play is still there. The Hurricanes are 13th best on the kill. The Oilers 6th best on the power play. So there's that. They can certainly get their cookies on the power play, but I don't really think paying up for them this evening makes a ton of sense. Like if you got to scroll way down to find Edmonton 58th best offensive line. That's how bad this matchup is tonight at 21,300. I will pass. So that is that. Moving on, we've got the Red Wings and the Devils. The Devils look like they are in a great spot tonight. Probably one of the best spots on the slate. They're 5th best offensively at 5v5, going up against the 20th ranked defensive team at 5v5. They're also the number 1 power play unit, going up against the 22nd ranked power play unit, penalty kill, excuse me. So overall, 2nd best advantage on 5v5. Number 1 advantage on the power play. So the Devils look like they're in a primo position tonight. Ownership, not 100% sure. I'm assuming they're going to be one of the highest owned lines on the slate. And to me, it's interesting how well that this New Jersey second line has graded out. I think that you can probably get off a little bit of the ownership with them. That being said, I don't think too many people are super keen on playing Haula, Hughes, and Lazar. But at 17,300, still getting a full stack for Jack Hughes' line's fine. Haula is obviously a volume shooter. Lazar's just is what he is at this point in his career. But if you take a look at the matchups, the second line has a slightly better matchup. They also have the better offensive numbers at 5v5. So I'm interested in both lines, but if I had to pick one, I think I'm going to go with New Jersey too. You can always try to sprinkle in Jack Hughes as well and go for the power play stack. I think is a super viable play as well. So to me, I like New Jersey too. You've got Toffoli, you've got Mercer, and you've got Bratt. Mercer helps keep the price down, 18,100. So yeah, if you want to go with the full power play stack, here's what it looks like. You've got Jack Hughes with Bratt and Toffoli, Luke Hughes out there as well with Andre Palat. So you've got Toffoli, you got Bratt. If you want to include Jack Hughes and get the full power play, it's obviously getting super expensive. That's when you're going to have to get down to some of these lower price lines like Buffalo 2, etc. So really, really like the Devils tonight. The Red Wings, not so much. They look okay. 23rd power 5v5 advantage isn't great. Power play advantage is 8th, but they've been just so cold on the power play as of late. They're like something like 2 for the last 40. And then you factor in, I don't know if these are going to stick in the game. Plus, they're going with 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. So there's going to be some shuffling, but boy, these were their lines at practice yesterday. I think they've lost like 8 of their last 10 or something. So like they're shaking shit up, obviously, but these are gross. Absolutely do not like these at all. So I'm not going to play any Detroit. Better to go New Jersey 2 or New Jersey power play. I mean, obviously it's better to go New Jersey power play. Getting Jack Hughes in the stack is always makes the stack a little bit better, but price wise, it obviously jacks things up. So I think both are good. Like if I had to pick, if you can give me build me a good line, a line that I think has got suitable secondary pieces with New Jersey's power play, then yeah, I like New Jersey's power play. But if you can't build a suitable lineup with decent second pieces, then I would go New Jersey too. 50 people in here right now, which is always great, which means there should be at least 50 likes in this video when I shut it by the end of the show. So please smash that like button. Absolutely grinding out a 14-game slate here for you. I think we're only halfway there. Those are just the 7 o'clock games. So we're getting into the 7:30 window here. Let's keep rolling with the Islanders and the Flyers. The Flyers are the number 1 penalty kill in the league right now. 31st on the power play. That's hilarious to me. I don't really have a whole lot of interest in the Flyers. I think Ilya Sorokin looks great. He grades out far and away the best goalie tonight. He's super expensive at 8,300, but I think he is a really solid play tonight. He hasn't been very good, but yeah, I like Sorokin a lot in this matchup. The matchup just looks pretty good for the Flyers. It actually grades out okay. Like the Islanders, for whatever reason, they're not great defensively. But then you factor in that like Flyers power play is dog shit. So the Flyers can probably get something going on at 5v5 tonight because the matchup's pretty good. The Islanders aren't very good defensively, but The Flyers' offensive numbers aren't very good either. So I don't know if they've got really the talent level to take advantage of against Sorokin tonight. If anything, I think this just potentially leads to more saves for Sorokin and kind of boosts my love for him tonight. On the flip side, I always kind of like the Islanders more than most. The charts always seem to like the Islanders. They're always super low owned. So I'm always kind of in. I always kind of appreciate this Brock Nelson line just because they grade out so terrifically. Second best 5v5 numbers on the slate. The matchup, not great. They're going to see a lot of Philly 3. So I'm not going to be super overweight by any stretch on the Islanders, but I do think that they're interesting. Their offensive numbers are super intriguing and something that like I like to target when they're going to be lower owned. So overall, 14th best 5v5 advantage. Certainly nothing to write home about. But Flyers middle of the pack 5v5 defense. So I think there's something there. But the fact the Flyers are the number one penalty kill kind of turns me off of them. I think it's probably a lower scoring game and not something that I'm super interested in. This game, not very interested in the Predators and the Flames either. I think it's probably going to be another one of those tight checking, low scoring games. Matchup wise, it's pretty bleak for both sides. Pace wise, it's pretty bleak. I'll continue to tout Nashville 1. They've been super strong. Their offensive numbers are outstanding. 8th best 5v5 numbers on the slate. The matchup, obviously not great. They're going to go head-to-head with the Lindholm line most of the night, which grades out 41st, so above average. So, not overly interested in this game, but, Nashville 1 does grade out in the top 10. They're 17,300. On the power play, where's Nashville rank on the power play? 7th best on the power play tonight. So, I think there's maybe something there. I'm more interested in Nashville than I am Calgary. Nashville also doing a tremendous job drawing penalties this year, 4.1 per game, which is terrific stuff. But it looks like a lower scoring game that I'm probably going to fade mostly. But I am slightly interested in Nashville 1. As you see here, Calgary kind of nowhere to be found. It is worth mentioning that the Jonathan Huberdeau, Blake Coleman backline line seems to be working. Huberdeau's maybe coming around a little bit, but I'm just don't really love this game. Maybe UC Saros found something last on Monday. He played pretty well against the Avs. So, pretty low scoring game looking to me. Not all that interested. Okay. I do like this next game. I probably am not going to play too much St. Louis. They grade out well matchup wise. The problem is the offense numbers are pretty bleak. That top line's really the only one worth targeting. If they were ever going to kind of get things going, it would be in this matchup. It looks pretty juicy. 17,900 full stack. St. Louis 1, Buchnevich, Thomas, Kyrou. I mean, that's a talented line to only be 17,900. The matchup's really good, 73.9. 5v5 numbers aren't that outstanding, though. So, obviously, 3 really good players. They haven't produced great results yet, but I think in this matchup, this game could be high scoring. I do think St. Louis 1's relatively interesting at low ownership. Arizona 1, I'm super interested in tonight. Logan Cooley's going to move up and play with Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. And that move last year is what got Barrett Hayton going. And it turned this line into absolute dynamite. And if it can have the same effect on Logan Cooley and really kind of springboard him, I think that I kind of want to be early on this. So right now, the 5v5 numbers don't look outstanding, but the matchup is, and I want to be early. I want to be early on Logan Cooley, maybe making a splash on this line when he's 3,900. This line's super affordable at 16,000. If playing with Keller and playing with Schmaltz is kind of what Cooley needs to take off, like Barrett Hayton did last year, then I want to be there when it happens. So I really like Arizona 1. The charts, they're not going to jump off the charts at you, obviously, right now. But kind of given Keller and Schmaltz's history and given the matchup as well, I do like Arizona 1 quite a bit tonight. Arizona 2 also grades out pretty well. Their matchup's actually slightly better. Their offensive numbers are outstanding. I just don't really trust them that much. Like, they've been putting together solid results, but on a 14-game slate, I just don't know if I'm really going to go there. The upside is certainly much higher with Arizona 1. As you can see here, they also fully correlate on the top power play unit. You got Cooley with Schmaltz, Keller, and Jersey. So if you want to include Jersey in that mix, that's fine as well. In terms of the power play, they have the 13th best advantage. They're 7th best in the power play, going up against the 21st ranked penalty kill. The problem is the Blues don't draw a ton of penalties, but the Coyotes could take advantage. So the Coyotes top line, certainly one that I'm very interested in this evening. Keep rolling here. Let's go. 4 games left. Dallas and Vegas. Not a whole lot of interest in this game. Going to be super low scoring, tight checking, good hockey game to watch without a doubt. That being said, both teams very good offensively, both teams very good defensively, both teams solid on the power play, but just 2 absolute wagons, 2 of the best all-around teams in the Western Conference without a doubt. That means that the matchups don't look great. Certainly worse for the Vegas Golden Knights than it is for the Dallas Stars. I think it's hard to ignore Dallas too and what they've done. Their numbers are ridiculous. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it. It was super interesting on Monday. I said, if this continues, they're eventually going to have to break up Dallas 1. Boy, do I know what I'm talking about, because they broke up Dallas 1 hours later. So I don't know if the Dallas coaching staff is listening to the show. If they are, kudos to you guys. Because, they broke up Dallas 1. They put Robertson with Johnson and Dadonov. They put Ben with Hintz and Pavelski. They got a dub. So I think this Dallas 2 line, like, these numbers are too good to ignore. They grade out pretty well. It's 12,300 though. The price is too hard to ignore. The numbers are too hard to ignore. They're still one of the best value plays on the slate. Are they going to draw a ton of ownership? Probably not. I think people are a little bit scared of Vegas still. Vegas hasn't necessarily been quite as dominant lately. I think part of the issue for Vegas has been mostly injuries. They're finally kind of getting back to full health, but after starting the year 11-0-1, they've lost 6 of their last 8 games. So I do think that there's something here. This is also the end of a long road trip for the Golden Knights. I do like Dallas too still tonight because of how just dominant they've been and how cheap they are. So I'm not really ready to get off the Dallas 2 train, even though the matchup might not look quite that great on paper. Next game, Anaheim and Montreal. We go from 2 really, really well-rounded, great hockey teams to 2 not so well-rounded, good hockey teams. Matchup-wise, it's pretty good because both teams suck ass defensively. But are either team good enough to take advantage of it? Remains to be seen. The 5v5 numbers are putrid across the board in this game. The one line that sticks out is Anaheim 2. They actually grade out as one of the best lines to target on the slate. Pretty expensive at $18,000 a full stack. I think they're fine. I've never been a big Ryan Strome fan from a DFS perspective. Just doesn't shoot enough. But I do think that this is a decent line. Maybe a Vetrano McTavish mini stack I think is fine. I believe that they're still together on the power play. Let me double check. They are not, so I'm a liar. Strome and Vetrano are. But yeah, like at 5v5, they should be fine. The matchup's really good, 94.6. Their 5v5 numbers are really good. So I think this is a matchup that Anaheim 2, McTavish, and Vetrano, they're okay. I think that they're probably too expensive. Like, I don't like paying $7,300 for Vetrano or $6,500 for McTavish is fine. But, Vetrano is probably priced out for me, like just too high. Like, obviously this price is reflective of what he did early in the season where regression was very obvious that it was coming, has cooled off since. So I think it's probably too steep a price to pay. Maybe more of a late slate play if you want to get contrarian. Anaheim 1, the offensive numbers just aren't there. I think Leo Carlson's great. I think Troy Terry's great. Alexander Klorin is what it is. The matchup's solid. They are relatively affordable at $15,000. So I think that they're there. You can certainly play them. But yeah, I just don't know if either one of these teams is good enough offensively to really take advantage. It kind of just looks like a shitty 3-2 hockey game. New look Montreal lines kind of make them even less desirable. Like, you could talk me into playing Montreal if Caulfield and Suzuki were still together. This is just pretty gross. John Gibson's been unbelievable. So still like John Gibson tonight. How much is he? 82, probably too expensive, but that should keep ownership down. I think he's fine because this is just kind of a shitty hockey game. Colorado and Vancouver should not be a shitty hockey game. 2 very good clubs going head to head. Talked about it though. The Canucks probably going to start regressing. It seems to set in. Like, they didn't smash the Sharks like you might expect. Just still a team that's not been great at 5v5. 20th in 5v5 offense, going up against the 8th ranked 5v5 defense. So probably going to be tough for them there. They're also going up against the 4th ranked penalty kill. So, given how pricey they are, Miller up to 77, Besser up to 71. Hughes has got to be insane. I haven't looked at it yet. Elias Pettersson, 81. Like, this looks like a good matchup to fade Vancouver finally. I imagine that the rest of the industry feels the same. Their implied totals aren't very good. So projections and optimizers certainly aren't going to like a team with a 2.9 implied total. So if you want to get ultra contrarian, maybe. But yeah, they're just struggling at 5v5. They're really kind of relying on the power play, and they're going up against a good penalty kill. So I'm not really in love with the Canucks tonight. I do think that the Avalanche are interesting. Third best 5v5 offense going up against the 11th ranked defense. Also, the Canucks 26th on the kill. So fourth best 5v5 advantage, ninth best power play advantage for the Avalanche. One of the best kind of combined advantages on the slate. Really expensive still, 23,600 to full stack. Colorado won, but I like them. I think they're going to be one of the highest owned lines on the slate, which isn't great, but at 23,600, there's enough cheap options on the slate that I think you can still play them. They've been red hot, and hopefully the price helps keep them, a little bit low. Like I said, on a massive, 14 game slate, no one's going to be ultra chalky. You're going to be able to find strong contrarian plays to go along with maybe a slightly chalky Colorado one. But yeah, they've just been absolutely dominant. The matchup is quite good. They're going to see a lot of that JT Miller line, which has been getting caved in pretty regularly at 5v5. I mean, their offensive numbers, I hate when I do this. Their 5v5 offensive numbers, not very good. The 5v5 defensive numbers, not very good. So very reliant on the power play. This is obviously a really good Colorado one line. Can definitely take advantage of that matchup. Like them a lot. Colorado 3 still in play as a value option. 10th best offensive line. Again, they don't really have the game breakers, the goal scorers to capitalize on all the chances that they generate. Matchup's not great tonight, but whenever you get a line that's ranked 10th best offensively and they are not sub $10,000, I think that they're always kind of a reasonable play. If I was going to leave somebody off, it would be Logan O'Connor. Ross Colton is the best play from the group, just given the fact that he's the only one that actually sees any power play time. Not all that intrigued by the Canucks tonight. Last game, we've got the Kraken and the Sharks. I saw somebody earlier mention that Seattle 3 is going to be ultra chalky tonight. I think that that's definitely possible. They have been very good. Their matchup is outstanding. 99.1 doesn't get much better than that. And they are ridiculously cheap. 11,200. They grade out as one of the best 5v5 scores on the slate. Sullivan at 3,700, Gore 33, Bjorkstrand 42. They look dynamite in terms of the overall points per thousand on the raw projections. They are number one on the list. Seattle 1 also grades out really, really well. So to me, if Seattle 3 is going to be uber chalk, then I would be fine going to Seattle 1. They grade out super well as well. Their matchup is just as good, 98.2. Offensive numbers, not quite as good, but obviously McCann, Beniers, Eberle, guys that are more than capable of taking over a game, especially against a Sharks team that's absolutely dog shit. Kaapo Kähkönen getting the start makes me like the Kraken a little bit more. If Seattle 3 is going to be super duper chalky, Seattle 1 maybe a little bit less so. I'm interested. Seattle 2 is a little bit more difficult to play because they just don't shoot enough. Specifically Wenberg, Schwartz, maybe a fine one-off play or combined with a power play stack. But yeah, that's pretty much that. For the Sharks, the matchup's not horrendous. I'll kind of keep touting that I think this top line is relatively playable. The shot volume is pretty solid. Hurdle's a stud. They're playing huge minutes. Joey Decord, I think, has given up at least 3 goals in 8 of his 9 starts. So maybe if there's ever a game where the Sharks are actually going to score 3 goals, is this the one? Probably not. 5v5 advantage is the worst. Power play advantage is 16th. I think late slate, maybe, but overall in a 14-game slate, I'm not like, hey, I'm playing the Sharks tonight. Certainly better spots. Not much time to really talk about defensemen, but let's try really quickly. So Jakub Slavin is certainly one of the best options at 4,900. Nick Hag at minimum price is great. He just has been hurt, and now he's back, and he's cheap. Luke Hughes at 3,700 looks terrific. Pulak's fine. Lindell's okay. don't really love a lot of these other guys. Let's go back up to the top here. Brady Shea, sure. It's a good matchup for them. Zadorov, 2,900. Where's Chris Tanev? Chris Tanev's been a shot blocking machine lately. He's up to 3K. Really like Chris Tanev still. Who's our shot blocking gods tonight? Caden Gooley's way too expensive. Sealer, our guy. Nick Sealer still on board with that. McDonough back in the lineup at 2,900. He's also going to play in the top pair with Roman Josi. I can get behind that. Joel Edmondson, minimum price, sure. Chris Tanev, just mentioned him. Linus Ullmark starts. Kevin Shattenkirk back in the lineup. And Patrick Brown back in the lineup. Thanks, Beeps. There you go. Linus Ullmark. You're not going to get burned tonight. All right, we got 60 people in here. The show's about to end. Smash that like button if you could. Let's talk about some goalies really quickly. We can put the old green check mark next to Linus Ullmark's name now. Let's do that. Then I got to go fix the charts because apparently every team is labeled wrong. What an idiot. So Sorokin grades out the best. Super down for that. I think Ottinger at 8K is interesting. I would have liked him a little bit cheaper against the Golden Knights, but we talked about how that's probably a lower scoring game. He grades out kind of similarly to Ullmark and Vanacek. I do like Ottinger more than both of them. Vejmelka 7,900 is a little bit difficult. He just hasn't been that sharp. I do think that game can get up there. Not interested in Rant, although he's played well. The Oilers still present a stern challenge at 80 on the power play, and at 8,200 probably a little too risky. Saros, like I said, maybe he found something last game. He wasn't necessarily the best, but 7,800 against a Flames team that struggled to score goals all season, I think you can certainly do much worse than UC Saros. Merzlikins, even in a good matchup, that's just too expensive for Elvis Merzlikins to feel good about. Johansson at 8K, absolutely not. Kemper 81, probably not. Montembeault 7K, yep, fine with it. He's been solid enough. Like I said, I think that's probably a lower scoring game. He should face plenty of shots. I think at 7,000, 7,000 against the Ducks, it's hard to kind of ignore that price tag. The Ducks just aren't very good, and 7,000 is about as cheap as it gets. Markstrom, I think, is a strong play as well for the same reasons that I like UC Saros. I like Jacob Markstrom, probably not playing quick. I like Mrazek a lot more than I like Merzlikins, that's for sure. Bennington, no. I like the Coyotes too much. Logan Thompson, that's cheap for Logan Thompson, man. It's hard to ignore Logan Thompson at that price too. The matchup's certainly not great, but if that's a lower scoring game, he gets a 35 save bonus at 7,200. Logan Thompson, I'm down. Sign me up. I'd rather play Logan Thompson than Stuart Skinner, that's for sure. Probably more than Connor Hellebuck as well. Demko at 7K is hilarious because he's been unbelievable, but the matchup's rough. Kaapo Kähkönen at 67. Didn't he stop like 44 or 45 in his last start? It's not like the Kraken are very good. It's not like the Kraken can score. They've been better lately, but they're still the Seattle Kraken. They're not an offensive juggernaut. And like, if you're telling me that Seattle 3 is going to be chalky and Seattle 1 is going to be chalky, hell, I'll play Kähkönen in big fields. Why not? 6,700 against the Kraken? That's wild. Sign me up. All right, hat-trick pick for tonight. There's only like 700 players to choose from. How can I narrow it down? Give me Logan Cooley. Why not? Please comment your hat-trick picks in the comment section below the video, not in the live chat. And on your way down to comment your hat-trick picks, smash that like button. We've had a ton of viewers in here today. Always these big slates, this grows a little bit, and every like counts. So smash the like button. Give me some love. Enjoy. Any American listeners or viewers, enjoy. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. Enjoy your time with your family. I know I'm going to enjoy my day off. I'm going to go watch the Detroit Lions beat the Green Bay Packers ass and drink a lot of beers while doing it. So anyway, smash the like button. We'll see you guys back here for another massive slate on Friday. Enjoy. Cheers.